Big trade news just happened this morning. DeAndre Hopkins is going to the Kansas City Chiefs. We got to deep dive the situation. We got to deep dive DeAndre Hopkins. Deep dive what's going on with him to see whether or not you need him for fantasy football. He's rostered on about 64% of ESPN leagues, so more than likely you're going to have to trade for him. But he's been playing for the Titans, so there's a good probability that he could be sitting on waivers if somebody mad dropped him somewhere down the line and everybody was just looking at him throughout that time. But DeAndre Hopkins is now a Chief. We're going to deep dive it, but what you need to do right now is click that subscribe button because we're doing these deep dives every day on as many players as possible. We're covering the waiver wire every day, extensively, more than any other YouTube channel out there. We're getting you those deep stashes. On top of that, we're using these videos to help you set your lineups by looking at the matchups. Click that button right now. Stop missing out. Ric Flair's watching. Do not disappoint him. But digging into this trade, DeAndre Hopkins to the Chiefs, and this is going to be an interesting pair here with him and Patrick Mahomes in the offense because DeAndre Hopkins on the outside trading that separation. And a lot of people are wondering whether or not he still has it. We're going to go over some numbers with you and see whether or not you think he does with these numbers. But he has been silent most of the year, but there's some games. This team struggles to produce 100 passing yards. They struggle to get to 150. Will Levis has been bad. He's been bad that there's been moments he's been a meme. And it's like once a week almost. He's meme bad. That's how bad he's been. He's been so bad it's been comical. That being said, this offense is dead. This is a dead passing offense. So guys like DeAndre Hopkins, who are very talented, are just left the rots. And we are on the back nine of his career. He's a 32-year-old wide receiver, but he's also a stud, generational talent wide receiver who's still got some juice left to squeeze. And Patrick Mahomes can squeeze a little bit more juice out of DeAndre Hopkins for sure. As long as he's healthy on the field, he's going to be able to do something for them. But will it be fantasy relevant? Rashee Rice is gone. He's gone. He's out for the year. We're not looking at him. We got Xavier Worthy, the rookie. Justin Watson, the deep threat. Sky Moore, who's been no more in the National Football League because he hasn't done anything. Juju Smith-Schuster has been banged up, and he has been a shell of himself for pretty much the last half decade. Marquise Hollywood Brown's out. Mecole Hardman, he's Mecole Hardman. So DeAndre Hopkins steps foot in this offense. He's competing for routes, and he's going to be winning a lot of routes and getting a lot of opportunity in this offense. He's going to be one of the top guys, if not the top guy, instantly off the rip. There's going to be a ramp-up time. As for any wide receiver learning a new offense, what we saw from Amari Cooper, who was able to run on like 34% of the routes last week, he's going to be able to assert himself and be able to earn a chunk of routes. And then it's just going to build on that. He's also questionable. So learning the offense while he's getting right too is not a bad thing either because you're not expecting him to be a big part of the offense early on. But I do expect him to slowly ramp up probably around Thanksgiving time or right before it, maybe a week or two before it. We should see him hit like an 80 to 90% route participation rate and start sucking up the targets. We should be seeing that. In a couple weeks, we should be seeing that. Maybe sooner than expected, but we should see this. This is a hard offense to develop in. We're seeing a lot of rookie wide receivers take a year or so, which is normal for wide receivers, but also talented wide receivers usually start seeing a better impact off the rip. Rashee Rice did a good job last year on the back nine of the season. Xavier Worthy has been off and on this year. Sky Moore has never hit in this offense. That being said, DeAndre Hopkins can be productive in fantasy football, especially last year in 2023. We had 3 wide receiver 1 weeks. Everybody was drafting Brandon Ayuk very high on underdog fantasy in the second round. He only had 4 wide receiver 1 weeks, and everybody left DeAndre Hopkins for dead. Well, Will Levis did pretty much, but he also was able to get you some wide receiver 2 weeks mixed in there. His down weeks weren't too horrible, and the thing is, when you look at these numbers, he can be productive. In 2022, he was productive as well. And this year, he got you that 19.3 PPR fantasy performance in a dead offense. And now you're looking at the Chiefs offense. Travis Kelce, Xavier Worthy has been the guys getting the targets over these last 2 games. Juju Smith-Schuster had that one big game, and he was out last week, but he was productive. But when you look at this team, and you're looking at the pass catchers here, you definitely see that they need something. That's easy to see. You don't want Juju Smith-Schuster being your wide receiver 1. You know Xavier Worthy is the young pup in the offense. He's going to get his time sooner than later, but you don't want him to be the mainstay. You kind of want someone there to help balance things out for him. And you're looking at the routes run over the last 2 weeks. Justin Watson running 25 routes, getting a 78.1% route participation rate, getting a lot of work in the offense. He's a deep threat guy. He's a deep ball city man. And you cannot have him out there just soaking up the routes, because it's different from a guy like DeAndre Hopkins. Because Justin Watson is a guy, you have him pushed down there with that 4.3 speed, and you just chuck it up with a hope and a prayer. DeAndre Hopkins is going to provide a different type of nuance compared to a Juju Smith-Schuster, a Mecole Hardman, a Xavier Worthy, a Justin Watson, a Sky Moore. Just how these guys are fitting here in the offense. He's going to give them something else. And he's going to help these other wide receivers do some things while also being a mainstay in this offense. And last year, going over the numbers, nasty in air yards. Will Levis pushing it downfield to him. Over 100 air yards per game, 114 air yards per game. Whenever we see a wide receiver just even pushing 100 air yards per game, we're saying get that wide receiver off waivers right now. We're saying get that wide receiver off waivers right now, because that's good volume. And that's what he was doing last year in 2023. We're not so far removed from that. And then last year, 29% target share. You put those two numbers together, the 114 air yards and the 29% target share per game, that's nasty. That's elite workload. So we're able to operate at elite workload right now. We're able to do that. This year right now, this offense has been horrible, but now we're with the Chiefs, and this is our possibilities right here. Because these are range of outcomes. We're last year, not too far removed. We're only a few weeks into the season. We're about halfway done. But still, this is our range of outcomes here. This could potentially happen to some degree. Maybe the air yards are not as high because the Chiefs do play some small ball, but the target share could be well over 20%. And when there's a 20% target share wide receiver on waivers, that's going to be consistent, which I forecast a 20 to 25% target share and probably 80 air yards per game. I forecast him to be a steady back-end wide receiver too with some spike weeks. I forecast him to be a good guy to play the matchups with early on, and then you're going to let things shake out, and you're probably going to want him in your lineups in the back nine of the season. You may have to wait a little bit. He might not be productive these next few weeks, but you're probably going to want him, and everybody's going to be fighting for him off the waiver wire in trade. DeAndre Hopkins can get that elite workload still because he's still got it in 2023. And we're looking at the numbers here among 74 wide receivers in the ESPN receiving metrics. We're top 25 in open score, catch score. Yak score is 64th, but that ain't bad. That ain't bad. DeAndre Hopkins, not a yak guy. He's a downfield contested catch, makes those pretty catches downfield in the end zone type of guy. That's the guy he is. Creates separation, gets that target, and makes it happen type of guy. He is going to make things happen in this offense. He's a veteran. He understands concepts. He's been in football forever, playing at a high level. He's going to understand this offense very quickly, and he's going to be out there on the field. Give him a week or two to ramp up. Watch his route participation rate, and we're going to be looking at him. DeAndre Hopkins, this is the prime offense for anybody, especially him. And this is a spot where he could definitely hit in fantasy football. He should at least be rostered in every league. He should push for a 90 to 95 to 100% roster rate. The small leagues kind of skew that a little bit, but he should be pushing to a top tier roster rate right now because of this offense. They looked at Juju. They looked at Xavier Worthy. They looked at Justin Watson. They said, hey, we ain't getting it done with this. We ain't going to win a Super Bowl with this. We got to make it happen. DeAndre Hopkins, looking at the numbers here, that's good enough in this offense to get the job done. Open score 25th among wide receivers. And an offense this explosive could have really helped you out in fantasy football, especially when we get the targets pushed to him. And we're looking at the pace of play of the Chiefs. Neutral game scripts, over these last few weeks, week 5 and going forward here, and they're about 50-50, 51% to 49% run to pass. They usually want to be a little bit more towards the pass due to the weapons they got in the offense, due to Patrick Mahomes. They don't want to lean on the run. On top of that, Kareem Hunt, he is more beneficial when teams can't load the box. He is not the old Kareem Hunts. He's still very good for his age. He's still been playing very well, but he can play that much better if you have a good wide receiver out there who's really annoying defensive backs, and they got to roll coverage over that way. And now you do not key on Kareem Hunt as much. That's going to help the run game as well. It's going to help them roll out more plays per game on top of that. 29.6 seconds between plays. Top third in the league, but still, this team is very methodical, and they want to get the ball out quickly in the short passing game, but they also want to stretch it too when they need to. You can do all that with DeAndre Hopkins. You don't need him because you don't want to chase the wide receiver. He's old. You don't want to wait for the ramp-up time. You don't have time for that. You don't have the space for that. That's understandable. I think the risk is very low here. I think he's at least going to give you top-end wide receiver 3 results. You may not want that. You may not want to carve out space for that. But there's also going to be some spike weeks, especially when he starts ramping up. I think at least wide receiver 3 results on the floor is what I mean. And then on top of that, he can give you more than that. I think he's going to be on the field a lot. I think he's going to get a high route participation rate, 80 to 90%. He's going to get games where he's going to see the deep ball. He's going to get games where he's going to get opportunity. I think he's great to stash right now to see what happens in this offense. But looking at the wide receivers in this offense, how can DeAndre Hopkins not beat out these wide receivers? The only way is if he gets hurt or something really happens, there's no connection. But DeAndre Hopkins, standout player, was the man last year in Tennessee, and he's been hanging out in Tennessee, really not throwing out any fits right now with how bad the offense is. Now we're with the Chiefs, and looks like we're good to rock and roll. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Make sure to hit that subscribe button on the way out. Thanks for watching. Catch you on the next video.